astonished them. Moses said, "That was what we were seeking after." So, both of them retraced their footsteps till they reached the rock. There they saw a man lying covered with a garment. Moses greeted him, and he replied saying, "How do people greet each other in your land?" Moses said, "I am Moses." The man asked, "Moses of Bani Israel?" Moses said, "Yes, I have come to you so that you may teach me from those things which Allah has taught you." He said, "O Moses, I have some of the knowledge of Allah which Allah has taught me, and which you do not know, while you have some of the knowledge of Allah which Allah has taught you, and which I do not know." Moses asked, "May I follow you?" He said, "But you will not be able to remain patient with me, for how can you be patient about things which you will not be able to understand?" Moses said, "You will find me, if Allah so will, truly patient, and I will not disobey you in aught." So both of them set out walking along the seashore. A boat passed by them, and they asked the crew of the boat to take them on board. The crew recognized Al-Qadir, and so they took them on board without fare. When they were on board the boat, a sparrow came and stood on the edge of the boat and dipped its beak once or twice into the sea. Al-Qadir said to Moses, "O Moses, my knowledge and your knowledge have not decreased Allah's knowledge except as much as this sparrow has decreased the water of the sea with its beak." Then suddenly, Al-Qadir took an adze and plucked a plank, and Moses did not notice it till he had plucked a plank with the adze. Moses said to him, "What have you done? They took us on board charging us nothing, yet you I have intentionally made a hole in their boat so as to drown its passengers. Verily, you have done a dreadful thing." Al-Qadir replied, "Did I not tell you that you would not be able to remain patient with me?" Moses replied, "Do not blame me for what I have forgotten, and do not be hard upon me for my fault." So the first excuse of Moses was that he had forgotten. When they had left the sea, they passed by a boy playing with other boys. Al-Qadir took hold of the boy's head and plucked it with his hand like this. Sufyan, the sub-narrator, pointed with his fingertips as if he was plucking some fruit. Moses said to him, "Have you killed an innocent person who has not killed any person? You have really done a horrible thing." Al-Qadir said, "Did I not tell you that you could not remain patient with me?" Moses said, "If I ask you about anything after this, don't accompany me. You have received an excuse from me." Then both of them went on till they came to some people of a village, and they asked its inhabitant for wood, but they refused to entertain them as guests. Then they saw therein a wall, which was just going to collapse, and Al-Qadir repaired it just by touching it with his hands. Sufyan, the sub-narrator, pointed with his hands, illustrating how Al-Qadir passed his hands over the wall upwards. Moses said, "These are the people whom we have called on, but they neither gave us food nor entertained us as guests, yet you have repaired their wall. If you had wished, you could have taken wages for it." Al-Qadir said, "This is the parting between you and me, and I shall tell you the explanation of those things on which you could not remain patient." The prophet added, "We wish that Moses could have remained patient, by virtue of which Allah might have told us more about their story." Sufyan the sub-narrator said that the prophet said, "May Allah bestow his mercy on Moses. If he had remained patient, we would have been told further about their case." Volume 4, Book 55, number 614, narrated by Abu Huraira. The prophet said, "Al-Qadir was named so because he sat over a barren white land. It turned green with plantation after his sitting over it." Volume 4, Book 55, number 615, narrated by Abu Huraira. Allah's apostle said, "It was said to Bani Israel, 'Enter the gate of the town, with humility, prostrating yourselves and saying, repentance.' But they changed the word and entered the town crawling on their buttocks and saying, 'A wheat grain in the hair.'" Volume 4, Book 55, number 616, narrated by Abu Huraira. Allah's apostle said, the prophet, "Moses was a shy person and used to cover his body completely because of his extensive shyness. One of the children of Israel heard him by saying, 'He covers his body in this way only because of some defect in his skin, either leprosy or scrotal hernia, or he has some other defect.' Allah wished to clear Moses of what they said about him. So one day while Moses was in seclusion, he took off his clothes and put them on a stone and started taking a bath. When he had finished the bath, he moved towards his clothes so as to take them, but the stone took his clothes and fled. Moses picked up his stick and ran after the stone, saying, 'O stone, give me my garment,' till he reached a group of Bani Israel who saw him naked then, and found him the best of what Allah had created, and Allah cleared him of what they had accused him of. The stone stopped there, and Moses took and put his garment on and started hitting the stone with his stick. By Allah, the stone still has some traces of the hitting 3, 4 or 5 marks. This was what Allah refers to in his saying, "O you who believe, be you not like those who annoyed Moses, but Allah proved his innocence of that which they alleged, and he was honorable in Allah's sight." 33.69. Volume 4, Book 55, number 617, narrated by Abdullah. Once the Prophet distributed something among his followers. A man said, "This distribution has not been done with justice, seeking Allah's countenance." I went to the Prophet and told him of that. He became so angry that I saw the signs of anger on his face. Then he said, "May Allah bestow his mercy on Moses, for he was harmed more in a worse manner than this, yet he endured patiently." Volume 4, Book 55, number 618, narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah. We were with Allah's Apostle picking the fruits of the arak trees, and Allah's Apostle said, "Pick the black fruit, for it is the best." The companions asked, "Were you a shepherd?" He replied, "There was no prophet who was not a shepherd." Volume 4, Book 55, number 619, narrated by Abu Huraira. The angel of death was sent to Moses. When he came to Moses, Moses slapped him on the eye. The angel returned to his Lord and said, "You have sent me to a slave who does not want to die." Allah said, "Return to him and tell him to put his hand on the back of an ox, and for every hair that will come under it, he will be granted 1 year of life." Moses said, "O Lord, what will happen after that?" Allah replied, "Then death." Moses said, "Let it come now." Moses then requested Allah to let him die close to the sacred land, so much so that he would be at a distance of a stone's throw from it. Abu Huraira added, Allah's Apostle said, "If I were there I would show you his grave below the red sand hill on the side of the road." Volume 4, Book 55, number 620, narrated by Abu Huraira. A Muslim and a Jew quarreled. The Muslim, taking an oath, said, "By him who has preferred Muhammad over all people." The Jew said, "By him who has preferred Moses over all people." The Muslim raised his hand and slapped the Jew who came to the Prophet to tell him what had happened between him and the Muslim. The Prophet said, "Don't give me superiority over Moses, for the people will become unconscious on the day of resurrection, and I will be the first to gain consciousness to see Moses standing and holding a side of Allah's throne. I will not know if he has been among those people who have become unconscious, and that he has gained consciousness before me, or he has been amongst those whom Allah has exempted." Volume 4, Book 55, number 621, narrated by Abu Huraira. Allah's Apostle said, Adam and Moses argued with each other. Moses said to Adam, "You are Adam whose mistake expelled you from paradise." Adam said to him, "You are Moses whom Allah selected as his messenger, and as the one to whom he spoke directly. Yet you blame me for a thing which had already been written in my fate before my creation." Allah's Apostle said twice, "So Adam overpowered Moses." Volume 4, Book 55, number 622, narrated by Ibn Abbas. The Prophet once came to us and said, "All the nations were displayed in front of me, and I saw a large multitude of people covering the horizon." Somebody said, "This is Moses and his followers." Volume 4, Book 55, number 623, narrated by Abu Musa. Allah's Apostle said, "Many amongst men reached the level of perfection, but none amongst the women reached this level except Asia, Pharaoh's wife, and Mary, the daughter of Imran. And no doubt the superiority of Aisha to other women is like the superiority of tharid, that is a meat and bread dish, to other meals." Volume 4, Book 55, number 624, narrated by Abdullah. The Prophet said, "None of you should say that I am better than Yunus, that is Jonah." Musaddad added, "Jonah bin Matta." Volume 4, Book 55, number 625, narrated by Ibn Abbas. The Prophet said, "No slave of Allah should say that I am better than Yunus bin Matta." So the Prophet mentioned his father's name with his name. Volume 4, Book 55, number 626, narrated by Abu Huraira. Once while a Jew was selling something, he was offered a price that he was not pleased with. So he said, "No, by him who gave Moses superiority over all human beings." Hearing him, an Ansari man got up and slapped him on the face and said, "You say, 'By him who gave Moses superiority over all human beings,' although the Prophet, Muhammad, is present amongst us." The Jew went to the Prophet and said, "O Abul Qasim, I am under the assurance and contract of security, so what right does so-and-so have to slap me?" The Prophet asked the other, "Why have you slapped?" He told him the whole story. The prophet became angry till anger appeared on his face and said, "Don't give superiority to any prophet amongst Allah's prophets. For when the trumpet will be blown, everyone on the earth and in the heavens will become unconscious, except those whom Allah will exempt. The trumpet will be blown for the second time, and I will be the first to be resurrected to see Moses holding Allah's throne. I will not know whether the unconsciousness which Moses received on the day of Tur has been sufficient for him, or has he got up before me, and I do not say that there is anybody who is better than Yunus bin Matta." Volume 4, Book 55, number 627, narrated by Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, "None should say that I am better than Yunus bin Matta." Volume 4, Book 55, number 628, narrated by Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, "The reciting of the Zabur, that is Psalms, was made easy for David. He used to order that his riding animals be saddled and would finish reciting the Zabur before they were saddled. And he would never eat except from the earnings of his manual work,